training. I think we have you all on mute, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through the slides. Christine Zimmerman, I believe, if you're registered, has sent you out the slides. They may be a little different than what's actually posted on the web later today or tomorrow. We made some changes, but we'll go through the slides, and then you can ask questions, and then we'll actually go through an application, and then you can ask questions. So that's kind of how we're going to do things this morning. Technical difficulty by the operator. Okay, thank you. Here's our agenda. We'll stick to it as we go through the slides. The home team members for allocation, there's Caroline Jensen, she's our Chief Administration Officer, Connie Bryant, Rita Ebel, Jerry Floyd, Nancy Peterson, and Christine Zimmerman. If you are awarded funds, you will know all of us very dearly at the end. We also, for Homebuyer, we have long-term compliance, which is Julie Nolan and Carol Wells. So for long-term, you are required to make sure that the homeowner remains in the home during the affordability period, and they keep insurance on the property. Applications will open December 17th at 8 a.m. I know we've had several people try to get into the applications, and they're not available until that date at that time. So just be patient. We're making some minor adjustments on them and stuff, and so again, December 17th they will open. They will be due January 14th at 4:30, and I would suggest that you try to get them submitted several days prior to that, because if you don't meet the 4:30 deadline, you are not eligible, and we cannot open it back up for you. So there's a lot of exhibits that need to be uploaded. You have to have all green check marks on your application, and so to be safe, if you're going to submit one, I would do it early. And also during this time, people may be in and out of the office, and so you know, please just submit early. We're going to have about $5.5 million for this round, and this round is including is everyone muted out there? Okay. Let me see. Okay, so we have $5.5 million this round, which includes rental without tax credits, the Homebuyer program, and the tenant-based rental assistance program. We're not sure how many applications we will receive, but it may be a competitive round. So the better your application, the better the chance of being funded. And just so that you are aware, there is not a federal budget for FY 2015. You know, our home funds come from the federal government, and Congress has been delayed in taking action, and we're not even, I mean, our 2014 money may not come until May, June of this 2014. I believe that's when it came last year. So we're getting later, starting later and later every year because of our federal allocation. We can't start till we get our official letter from HUD Omaha, and so, but we can get through the process. So, eligible applicants for the Homebuyer are local governments and nonprofit entities. Some of the rule changes for federal and state In 2013, administrative rule changes. Initial purchase price or after rehab value of the home buyer units assisted with home cannot exceed 95% of the area median purchase price for single-family housing as determined by HUD. Also, that 95% is on our website. So when you go into the home program on our website, you will see that 95% to see what you're working with those numbers. Also, we had a rule change that included veterans are able to apply for the home program. Of course, they will have to provide proof, and you would have to include that in your documentation if you were funded. For the home rule, you have to have a contract between the subrecipient, which is whoever is applying, we're calling you subrecipients, and the home buyer. This has not been a requirement before. We've just kind of used the mortgages and things like that, but there has to be a contract now between the two. And also, HUD has, the home buyer counseling is required for home buyer program. Some of you are providing this right now, and some of you are not. So it is a requirement and needs to be included in your budget when you submit. The 2012 home appropriations, this is kind of just to bring people up to date that haven't been involved with home buyer in the last year. 4-year project completion. HUD will scoop your funds if it's not done within 4 years. Your contract, if you're awarded, will actually be 2 years with us, but we just wanted to point that out. Also, with home buyer, you have to do underwriting of the project and underwriting of the home buyer and a market need. So the home buyer underwriting, we have forms out there that will help you do that, but we're just not giving each home buyer $37,500 or $35,000. They have to show the need and the gap for that home funding. So, and if a home buyer unit doesn't sell within 6 months, it has to go to a rental unit. So you would have to be prepared to do a rental on that. A subrecipient is a public agency or a nonprofit organization that receives home funds solely as a developer or owner of house is not considered a subrecipient. Subrecipient is responsible for compliance with the home regulation, and failure to meet compliance regulations could result in the repayment of funds by the subrecipient. So that's why we have awarded to subrecipients, because they are the ones that are responsible for the funds. IFA will seek reimbursement from you if funds had to be paid back to HUD. And you will have, the subrecipient of course would have a contract with IFA if awards are made. Also, the subrecipient is the only organization that is eligible to receive administration funds. You cannot apply and then hire an administrator. You have, the person that's doing the application has to be able to do the administration. General administration is a separate activity, and when you put your budget together, there's an actual line item on your Exhibit A of the contract, and then there's a line item on your budget of your application that shows the general administration cost. Admin funds can be used for the following. This is just a list of what could be. It's not all inclusive, but when you put in, or if you would be awarded and you would put in for an admin cost, we need to see itemized statements showing the cost. We just won't pay you the lump sum of admin. And this is still some of the stuff that's able for you to get for general admin. Oh, also, when you do your general admin draws, if you're awarded, we will not let you, your admin draws will be drawn as according to your program funds. They will be prorated. So you can't draw, if you've only done one home buyer project, we will not allow you to have 60% of your admin costs drawn. We're keeping track of that because we've had some projects that have end up not doing the units but getting all their admin. So we will, that will be also a consideration. Subrecipients, of course, will do the admin functions and again reimburse actual staff costs. Developing systems and schedules to ensure compliance with the home program requirements, including income eligibility. You'll be responsible for developing and filing mortgages and deed restrictions and the home written agreements with the home buyers. We do have samples of all of those, or will have if you are funded, if you don't have your own. Again, there'll be long-term monitoring requirements. And there will be reports, of course, with federal funds throughout the project. Technical service fees may be contracted through a third party. So you would do the admin costs, but then if you have technical service like lead costs, inspections, things like that, you could go out to bid for a third party if you do not have staff capable of doing those items. And the subrecipient is responsible for oversight of the third party. Technical services cannot exceed $4,500 per home assisted address. You kind of look at the technical services as it's like when you select your home, you'll do your appraisals, work specifications, construction inspections, and oversight. So technical services is actually tied to an address. You have your lead and if there's any relocation, your environmental review, and then your home buyer counseling. Now, on your home buyer counseling, if the buyer is not successful in getting a home unit, then you have to take that cost and you would flip it back to your general admin because the home counseling has to be tied to an individual address. Okay, your contract timeline, again, we would award it for 2 years. If you're showing significant progress and you would need a limited time extension, we will deal with it at that time. But if you are not moving forward, we can deobligate and use home funds that are left on other projects or another round. Conflict of interest. No employee, officer, or agent of a subrecipient may participate in the selection, award, or administration of a contract supported by home if a real or apparent conflict of interest could be involved. This will be explained more if you are awarded. We just, families, immediate families and stuff cannot benefit by the home award. Procurement, if you do a third party, you'll have to procure nonprofits, follow 24 CFR Part 84, and government entities do 24 CFR Part 85. Bless you. With the home buyer projects, your mortgages will have recapture with net proceeds. This ensures that most of the time when you do the recapture, there isn't a burden usually of having any money that has to be paid back when you do the calculation. There are different types of recapture with net proceeds, and you can find them in the HUD final rule. An example of that is if you forgive a percentage each year along the way, that would be an example. HUD requires that a direct subsidy be provided for the recapture method to be used, so all projects must have some down payment assistance. As you will see later in the application, $1,000 must be home funds used for down payment. Once recaptured is utilized, subrecipients are responsible for securing the net proceeds for any sale of the home-assisted properties during the affordability period. That money needs to be repaid back to IFA, and IFA pays it back to HUD. You need to make sure that your home buyers are aware of the recapture provision. So you need to include that in your contract that you have with them. And again, we have sample language. If you do not use the recapture in your documents, you will be responsible to pay back the entire amount of the home award to that person. Lead-based paint, we're all aware of that. The units or the home buyer units have to be have the lead addressed in them. I'm not going to go through this formally. This is just to let you know that there will be probably lead costs in most of the homes that you are rehabbing for the home buyer. Relocation. Any project being funded with home funds that will result in either the temporary relocation or permanent displacement of current tenants must comply with the relocation assistance policy and with all the requirements of the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policy Act of 1970. There is an environmental requirement for the home buyer. They do come under category excluded subject to other laws and regulations. We have a programmatic agreement with SHPO, so some of our units do not need to go to SHPO. It's a two-tier environmental review. There will be time constraints with this. Your first tier you have to publish, and there's a 7 and 15-day waiting period, so you cannot do anything until you have a request for release of funds from IFA. And there's also some of the projects may need to contact the Indian tribes. There's actually a form out there that will tell you if you need to or not. Affirmative fair housing marketing plans. There's a sample form out there on our website, and that must be filled out prior to drawing funds. Nancy Peterson is the one that looks those over and approves them. And what the affirmative fair marketing is to market to individuals that would probably not traditionally apply for these funds. And what the topics that I just talked about, those are the other federal provisions that are required with the home program. We're just letting you know of the responsibilities that will be required with the home program if you are funded. It gives you an idea of the work that is involved. Types of programs and caps. The total cap per home project for home buyer assistance is $600,000. You can apply for down payment assistance. If you do that, there's a cap of $35,000 per unit or per household. Acquisition with rehab, there's a cap of $37,500 per unit. Again, the $1,000 minimum amount for home down payment, and we are asking that the home buyer provides $500 minimum down payment contribution. Okay, eligible participants must be a first-time home buyer or a veteran. The household has to be 80% below of area median income. There is a new tool for income determination at that website, and the property must be the principal residence of the person. Residency requirements, the home buyer must use the home assisted unit as the primary resident throughout the affordability period. If the home assisted unit is not the primary residence, All direct and indirect subsidy, except for the admin, must be repaid to HUD by the home buyer. If the home buyer cannot repay, the subrecipient is responsible to repay. And again, long term, you will have to supply that to Carol Wells, that the person is still in the home and that they have insurance on the property. Forms of ownership is holding a fee simple title. Property standards, each house must be inspected, and housing quality standards must be met at time of occupancy. If the city that the home is located in does not have local code standards or ordinances, the existing structure must meet Iowa minimum housing rehab standards. And that's usually for cities with a population of less than 15,000. Period affordability is, okay, the period affordability starts when your project is completed in IDIS. IDIS is the financial, and it keeps track of projects and units for the HUD system. The amount of home fund establishes the time period of affordability. The affordability period is the same whether you're giving a grant or a loan, or we're giving a grant or a loan. If you have 1,000 to 14,999, affordability period is 5 years. 15,000 to 40,000 is 10 years, and over 40,000 is 15 years. The initial purchase price or after rehab value of homebuyer units assisted with home funds cannot exceed 95% of the area median purchase price for single-family housing as determined by HUD. Again, those figures are on our web with the link that takes you right to Iowa and then up to your county, and those are the figures. There's one for new construction and there's one for rehab. So those are the figures that you need to look at just to give you an idea. We were afraid that when the new rule came out, the 95% was going to be very low, because prior to releasing those new numbers, some of the figures in the counties were 40,000 or below. But I think we have come away pretty good with the 95%. I think that it's usable in all the counties that we serve. Appraisals, all homebuyer properties require an appraisal. A copy of the lender's appraisal is acceptable, and they can only be less than 6 months old. Okay, we're going to navigate the application, but I wanted to go here quickly to show you that what we're going to do is, if you have questions from now, I guess no, this doesn't open until the application opens up. So when you have questions, you need to submit it to that email address so that we can answer them all the same and everyone has the same information. You can't call and ask someone on the team a question because it's really not the official policy of IFA. So please just follow that once the application, go to home@iowa.gov and submit your questions. Also, again, this is general information and does not carry a force of legal opinion. We have to have a disclaimer, of course. Okay, now, do we have any questions? We have a question. Who does the inspection referred to on page 39. That would be if you have someone on your staff that is qualified to do the housing inspections, they could do it and you can charge it that way. Or if not, you would have to hire a third party that has those qualifications. Again, you would have to procure, you would have to have a contract, and then you would just, and also I want to say, when you have contracts, you need to include the federal language in all your contracts. I'm running upon, when I'm going out to monitoring, a lot of people are not including the federal language in their contracts. So please include that. We'll try to remember that in when we have the recipient training to go over that also. Okay. What is the maximum amount of funds that can be requested per home application? $600,000 is the maximum. Any others? You will have a chance at the end of the application to ask more questions.
You want to go to your application?
Yeah.
Hit escape. Top left. Right.
Thank you. Jerry's helping me with my IT deficiencies I have. Okay, so here is, so when you go in, this is the application that you will bring up is the Homebuyer Subrecipient. So I've put one together, and so we're just going to go through it. This is your overview page. All of this information that shows up actually comes from these other check bars that you go in and then it loads up into here. So you don't actually put anything into the overview. So we'll go through it and then we'll come back up and show you the information that came up through the overview. So the general information, it just tells you about the requirements of the program, which we went through on the slides. It tells you the local government and nonprofits are eligible to apply. It has the Iowa minimum housing standards, $600,000 per project, $24,999 for hard cost of rehab, $4,500 for lead or carrying cost or soft cost. You have to serve 80% or below. You have to use that 95% medium sell price. You have to be below that. Okay. So that's kind of what that goes through. Okay, they're due January 14th, 4:30. Again, please do not wait till the last minute. So that's just kind of the general. You might, I mean, I would suggest reading through it. I know I went through it, but I just kind of glazed over it. So your project name and description, you put here who's going to be applying, what type they're applying for. They could just be doing acquisition, which would just be down payment assistance, but this one is doing acquisition and rehab. From this list, number 3, you just pick the communities that are going to be involved. A lot of times it's only one community. Sometimes if a council of governments would apply, they will include several communities within their area. That's fine also. We just need to know they have to be incorporated areas that we serve. They have to be hooked up to water and sewer. They'll be doing family. That's your only choice there. You need to tell us how many units you're applying for. on this type of home units, you're going to just pick fixed. That's just what it is. During the rehab, we want to know if you're replacing like the furnace, air conditioner, things like that. We want to make sure that you use Energy Star replacement. So you need to answer, the best answer for that would be yes. So otherwise, you know, it just helps you, it helps the home buyer with their utility fees and stuff. Yeah, it helps them with their future costs. It keeps them down so that, you know, because it's, you know, it can be expensive to be a homeowner. Okay. And then you just go down and you ask or answer the questions. We don't need, I mean, we just need you to answer the questions. We don't need a book. We don't, you know, we don't want it too short. We just want the questions answered. We want a strong application showing us, you know, that you've thought about it, you're working with these organizations and stuff, and there is a need out there. This one, how and by whom will the active rehab value be determined? Principal loan to be offered to the home buyer. Who will be required, or who will provide the home buyer education? And that's your counseling. If you know who that's going to be ahead of time, then you need to put that person in there. And if not, you just need to know it's a HUD certified provider that will do that. We haven't gotten a lot of guidance from HUD on that, and I think there's supposed to be some release of information. What are those CPD notices? There's supposed to be like 21 of those coming out, or 28 on these new home rules. We haven't seen any yet. So I think that's one that they're supposed to be putting out more information on. So once we get information, we will pass that on if, you know, if you're funded or not. Otherwise, just put a HUD certified provider. If you're a Great Place community, yes or no, this one is not. This number 14, this is just a brief description. If we need to provide this to our board or to a newspaper, this is probably where we would take this information from. So simple, sweet, just tell us, you know, what the program involves, who you're going to serve, and things like that. 15, provide evidence of need. This, you need to tell us, like, if you have, you know, people out there, if your rental units are, you know, if you're short on rental units and you have, you know, several units that can be bought, what condition, turnover for rental or home buyer or things like that. This is kind of where you sell your project, the need to us. So this, again, this is number 15, you know, will help sell your project. 16, local support. If you've been meeting with groups, if you have support from your bankers, your realtors, your economic development groups, your board as a subrecipient, anybody like that, you know, or if you've been working and having meetings prior to now or prior to submitting your application, I would put that in there. And I think there's an upload in the exhibits for local support or local commitment, and that would also be an upload that I think you would want to see. Okay, so then we go back up. We've got that one done. And you're going to see these red X's over here. That's because, and if you have a red X over there, you're not going to be able to come up here and submit. I didn't do my exhibits, so I got a red X. So, and then your error log, if I open that, when I open that, it's going to tell me that my exhibits. So when you have a red X and you look under your error log, it's going to tell you exactly what is missing, which is nice. Because otherwise, if you don't know what's missing, oh my, you would have to be just, you know, you'd be going through the application just wondering what was wrong. So this is really cool, I think, that it shows you what you need to correct to get all green check boxes. Okay, so we know that my exhibits are missing, but okay, so okay. Subrecipient organization. This is who is going to be the subrecipient. It gives your address, your city, telephone number, what type of entity. There's all, if you are a nonprofit, that's not in there, so you're going to pick other, which is probably a lot of our applicants are going to be the nonprofit, I would say. Okay, some may be local government, but anyway, then we do need your DUNS number, and if you do not have, we need one for every applicant. We've had this question about, well, can't just the Shell do it, you know, the Shell Corporation or whatever. No, it has to be for every applicant because HUD wants to track the individual projects. So anyway, so here is, if you do not have a DUNS number, you go into this web page, and then it's very, from what I'm told, it's pretty simple to get your DUNS number. So you get that. We'll need that for the application to be submitted. Your tax ID number, which you should all have. We need to know the contact person. This is the person that is going to be getting all emails and stuff. What will happen is when we get these applications submitted on the 14th, you will not have any more, you will not have access to your application. We will take this time that month and we will review them and we will deficiency them. And then on the 14th, probably the 15th, we will send out a deficiency letter. And that letter will go to Cindy Luhu on this one. So whoever is in that contact person will get the deficiency. So if they're not going to be in the office during that time, then no one else is going to get that deficiency. It's going to be this contact person. So it's very important because we only give you like 10 days to answer those deficiencies, and if we do not get them answered, then you're automatically do not meet threshold, and we will not consider you for funding. So just please make sure that the contact person is going to be there, and you know that they can. I know I'm harping on this, but we just don't want to see anyone kicked out because their contact person is not right. Okay, project team. This is going to be the people that are actually going to work on your project. So we have Whoville Incorporated. Okay, and again, this just gives us the information, her email address, her years of experience. Maybe this wasn't the project. Oh, sorry. That tells you the organization. Now the capacity tab, that's where first we ask you if you've ever had home before. Some of you will say yes. This one said no. And if you applied and then if you received, then it'll ask for what you have administered in the last 5 years. So we want you to keep adding your new rows to let us know the information. And then number 4, identify current subrecipient employees who worked on the projects listed in the number 3 above. So what we're doing is we're just trying to figure out your capacity, if the same people are working there, you know, and that's what we're looking at here. Other programs that you have successfully promoted low-income housing within the last 5 years, and that does not have to be home. That's just low-income housing. We also want to know if you've had to repay or forfeit any funds from a federal, state program, local program. If you've had any non-compliance issues, please explain. And again, if you've had turnover in staff, please explain that. And then when you come down here to the staffing experience for the proposed project, we need to know advertising and marketing. Who would be doing that? How many years? And this also will have to do with the affirmative fair marketing plan that would be required for this project. It's like who you're going to reach out to and stuff, and if they've had experience. Your program management, your compliance. Has anyone done home compliance? If so, we would want to know that. Project manager, determine home income and allowances. If anyone on your staff has done that, we'd like to know who and how long. Your financial management. If anyone is familiar with your procurement policy procedures. Your homebuyer education and counseling. If you know, and you may not know right now, who would provide that. But we would just, if you do, you need to name them. If anyone has environmental or NEPA experience, we would want to know that. Property inspection standards and technical services. Again, some of those you may not know because you may have to procure for those services. Okay, project timetable. These, this is going to be an estimated timeline. And actually, we probably should have said guesstimated, because we aren't sure when we're going to get HUD funding. So if we don't get HUD funding till June or July this year, of course all these months are going to be off. So we will work accordingly, and these will be updated. But it just gives us an idea that you're familiar with the process. This gets us from contracting down to taking home buyer applications. So we just want to know that you're in the thinking mode of getting going and getting started. Funding sources and match. Each funding source, you would add a new row. We have here state home grant. We're asking for $289,355. And we are actually getting $100,000 from Whoville Economic Development Corporation. So we don't have any match that's not in our budget, like in kind or anything. So we do not have any additional rows to add. Then we go down to the budget. We have the number of units, which we are applying for is 10. Now, don't make the mistake that I did. When I first put this together, I put the total in this first column. And that's, if you read it, it's estimated amount per unit of home funds. So when you take your 23,550 times 10, that gives you this 123,550. Next year, we're hoping that this will be figure automatically, but right now it doesn't. So you do have to do a little bit of math. Like I said, the first time I did it, I messed up. So, and actually the second time I messed up. But anyway, so just check your math and stuff. And again, if you don't do the budget, your funding sources and matches, both those will have red X's if you don't do it right. So you would not be able to submit if those two do not match. So anyway, and then I have the $100,000 from the local sources that I'm going to use on the hard cost of rehab. So together I have a home project fund total of $263.50, and then I'm going to ask, of course, the 10% for general admin, which is $26,305. So then I have a total home general admin of $26,305, and then when you add that in your home, you're going to have $289,355. That's what you're going to be asking from home. And then when I add in the $100,000 from my other source, my total project cost would be $389,355. Now if we go back, okay, so $289,355. Let's go back up here and see if that. This is the total, so that would be the $389,355. So you can kind of, in $289,355, then that doesn't include your admin. Yeah, that does include your admin. So that works out, and that's why we have the green check marks. Again, I did not upload my exhibits, but you will need to do that. Most of these are just forms. A lot of them are HUD required. The first one is application certification, assurances, signature page, your applicant recipient disclosure update form, your W-9, minority impact statement, no lobbying certificate, disclosure of lobbying certificate, if applicable. If you do H6, then you have to do H7. If it's at your local support here, this would be the information that you would upload from citizens, organizations, or governing bodies in local government. So any local support letters that you can add, you have to have one, but the more you have, the more we know that you've worked with your community or the area that's going to provide this. If you do have any town hall meetings or anything, we'd like to know about that also, just to let people know. I mean, if they're, if you're just letting them know that you're going to be applying for this, and if they would even be eligible under the 80% rule, you could have forms there to fill out and stuff. Not that they would be official, but it would give you some kind of idea of the need. That would be a good need. Nonprofit status, we need this for your organization. Support letters from lending institutions for mortgage financing. If you have a bank that you'll be working with, or several banks, that would be good to provide. If you have, when you do your sources, if you have other sources besides home, like I had the Economic Development Corporation, I would need to provide that commitment letter of that $100,000, and that it's going to be used for the actual rehab of those homes, and that they would do 10 homes with it. So that would be uploaded. Market information. We have a form, so you want to make sure you go into this website, print off the form, and fill that one out and upload it. Please do not upload old forms. Some of them we can deficiency, and others it just won't work with your application. map with the site locations. We know at the time you're not going to know your home buyer area or your actual home buyer unit, but if you have a very large community and you're only going to target like 3 or 4 neighborhoods, please include that in your map. Or if you have a smaller community and you're going to do the whole community, please include that so we know what your attack plan is. If you are Great Places, please provide that documentation. Balance sheet, we're asking the subrecipient to provide that for 3 years, and a profit loss statement. And if you have questions on that, you could do that to the Iowa or at home@iowa.gov.
Also check previous years question and answers.
Yeah, and there's also on the web page previous question and answers that you can look at. Then here's where you upload your documents. You select your document type, whichever one it is up above that you're uploading, and then you would just select it and upload it there. We prefer PDFs. They're easier for us to look at. Okay. Again, I can't submit my application because I have an X. And I know how to correct that if I would just upload my exhibit. So once you get all green checks, you would come over here and you would submit, and I think it asks you a question, are you sure? And I think it asks you another question, are you sure? So be sure, because once you submit it, we cannot let you unsubmit and add and delete stuff. So that's all I have. Do we have any questions out there on the application? We have a question. The 2014 forms are on the IPA website already. Are these forms acceptable to use? Yes.
Do you want me to open it for unmute for phone questions? Sure.
We're going to unmute in case someone has a phone question. What do you think?
I don't know. What if you go to the
Okay, we're not. So, but if you do have questions, please, for right now, if you do have questions, email Jerry Floyd or myself, Rita Ebel, because the applications aren't open and neither is the home@iowa.gov. We probably, though, will get a consensus and make sure that everyone, it'll be probably on the first question and answer when we would get back to you, or we would have that up, just so that everyone is treated fairly and equally. So that's probably what we would do for right now. We know you're all excited, so. We don't have any more questions and stuff, so I guess So we don't have any more questions. So thank you for attending this morning, and we look forward to reviewing your applications, and good luck.